Hey guys, welcome to another episode of As the Leader Grows podcast. I am your host, Ken Joslin, and I've got a first for you, ladies and gentlemen. I've got my good friend, Amy Lacey, the founder of the first ever cauliflower pizza crust in the world. She built $1 billion company. She's a best-selling, she's a best-selling author, mom of three. Now she's the founder of a new company called Soursop Nutrition. We'll talk a little bit about that today. When I say first ever, you're like, Ken, this is like your 150th podcast. No. What I mean is we got on a call 2 weeks ago to have a podcast, and an hour and 35 minutes into our conversation, we never hit record. And we're just having this amazing conversation. And I'm like, man, this is so good. I said, okay, so that was our get to know each other conversation. Amy, thanks for being here, my friend.
Oh, thank you for having me. Are you kidding? This is like such an honor. And I have really enjoyed our time together.
Yeah,
We've had
we've
great
had a
conversations, and I feel like we're really like-minded in a lot of ways. So I'm
yeah,
excited. Let's
yeah,
do
we are.
this.
Yeah,
Really.
I'm pumped. I've never had a scheduled podcast go into we always get that 3 to 5 minute get to know you time before we go live, and ours turned into an hour and 40 minutes, which was phenomenal. Well, talk a little bit. I mean, you're probably number one thing you're known for. You've got several 100,000 followers on Instagram. You're known for cauliflower pizza crust. Walk us through what it's like, not just to be an entrepreneur. This is such a loaded question, right? But to be a female entrepreneur and build $1 billion business. And I'll just let you go from there, because again, you could go a million different directions with that.
Yeah. So let me just backtrack first. The business, I created the cauliflower pizza crust just to serve my own needs. I was diagnosed with lupus and Sjogren's. I had family fun night with my 3 kids, which consisted of pizza, not cauliflower pizza, pizza and games, or pizza and movies. And I would wake up Saturday morning just really unable to really move and just sick. So long story short, I was diagnosed with lupus and Sjogren's. So I went out on a mission to find a pizza crust that was gluten-free, grain-free, and there was nothing out there. So I found this recipe online and I started making it, and friends loved it. Family loved it. I even got my oldest is so picky, won't touch a vegetable. I even got him to eat it. So then one of my friends was like, you should take this to farmer's market. It'd be a great job and show the kids how to work a job, and it'd be just fun little money. So we did that. We got discovered by a few local grocery stores. Next thing I know, I'm putting it online. I had been a health and life coach at that time. I was trying to help people get off their medicines like I did, because I was on steroids and Plaquenil. Plaquenil is the drug everyone was talking about during COVID. I was on those, and I was able to get myself off of those using food as medicine. One of those products was the cauliflower pizza crust. So in 2017, that story of one of my clients went viral. And here I had a business that I wasn't even planning to have. And the pizza crust went viral at a time when there was just a head of cauliflower at the grocery store. And as you can imagine, like, cauliflower is usually like the last veggie standing on a vegetable tray at a party. Like, it wasn't popular. There wasn't the rice and all the things you could do with cauliflower. And look, I didn't even love cauliflower when I first started working with it. I was like, this is stinky. I don't like it. Is it really a vegetable? It's not green. Vegetables are supposed to be green. But the beautiful thing about cauliflower is it's bland. It takes on any flavor. So the next thing I know, I'm making all kinds of things with cauliflower, and people are loving them. So the business became a business. It went viral, and it literally became a business overnight. And in 2017, we ended up being a 7-figure business, and I had to figure out real quickly what the food industry was like.
Well, let me back you up just a little bit, because I want to talk about the whole viral thing, because if people don't know your story, they're not going to know. I was blown away when I heard this. So you started doing this for yourself, for some autoimmune diseases that you had because of some of the food. And obviously you and I had a long conversation about how terrible our food sources are in America. and the
It,
kind of stuff they feed us and allow us to be able to eat. So you're doing this cauliflower. Like, take me back to the very first time you made I mean, were you like mashing cauliflower going, what in the world am I doing here? And how is this going to turn into a pizza?
well, okay, so the first time I made it, it fell apart. It was a hot mess. But I had been doing juicing, and I was juicing all kinds of fruits and vegetables also just to be anti-inflammatory. And my daughter's like, why don't you try juicing the cauliflower? It'll get the moisture out and the pizza crust will hold. And that worked. So when we went
Mm.
to farmers market, I bought a juicer from Jamba Juice, actually, one of their old juicers, and I started making it as a cottage license in my kitchen. And my client, who was one of my health coaching clients, she had a severely autistic, nonverbal autistic daughter. And she started, the doctor put, that little girl's name was Kenzie. The doctor put
Mhm.
Kenzie on a low carb diet. Well, I never created the pizza to be low carb, but turns out it's low carb. So Jessie, her mom, asked me if I would give them some pizza crust to try, and Kenzie loved it. And 7 months later, after eating our product, and they were eating it a couple times a day, actually, we were sending a lot of crust. Kenzie became verbal, was able to
Mm.
go back to school, and Jessie lost over 100 pounds because her daughter wouldn't eat unless she sat down and ate with her. So that's the story that went viral. It was really a story of telling Kenzie's story, but the before and after pictures of Jessie also were just incredible. And people really, that story went viral and people wanted that pizza crust. And so we
Was
started selling it to accommodate orders online, and local grocery stores picked it up. And, I tried to get into some major chains, and people were like, a cauliflower pizza crust? No, we got no all the time. And I always say no is next opportunity.
yes, yes.
People that let no shut you down, just realize that no is just simply a diversion. It's next opportunity.
Let me ask you a question real quick. So you've got this desire to do this cauliflower pizza crust with no, like, I mean, no, not a real passion or dream or vision to start a business.
So
You're just doing it for you, and then locals are like, this is awesome. Because the story you told me was, and correct me if I'm wrong, she wanted to come see you. This
yes,
girl did, and you said, no,
yes,
I'll come to your house.
I'll come to you.
She opens the door, and tell me what happened.
And I was shocked, like, like absolutely shocked, because she never told me she was losing weight. So I was blown away, not only by Kenzie's success, but Jesse's. And then I was like, we have to get pictures. We have to take pictures. Like, I'm in shock at how this is, what have you been doing? And she's like, well, I've been really watching what I've been eating, but I've also been eating your pizza crust like twice a day. We eat it for breakfast. We eat it sometimes as tacos. We eat it as pizza. Yeah, I was blown away. I wanted to share that story with so many people, that their success and my success, because the inflammation went away and I was eating a lot of the pizza as well. So yeah, that went viral. And literally by the end of that year, we had done millions in the pizza. And
When
there's
when
a
that
whole,
when
yeah.
that went viral, when did it click to you like, oh man, we've got something here?
Okay, so let me backtrack on this story, because this is pretty powerful. And I don't usually share this, but in the environment that we're in, I feel like this is very powerful. Before Jesse and Kenzie, before that happened, I was on my knees. I had gone through about $200,000 for the product. Basically, farmers market and a few local stores and some people online. Not a whole lot of business online before that story went viral. And one day I was on my hands and knees just praying to God. And I said, God, I've gone through our savings account. I've gone through, we were in the process of building a garage and converting our garage to a game room. I've used up that money. I cannot go into our retirement. And I
Mm.
was on my hands and knees on the side of my bed. My husband was sound asleep. And I just said, look, so many people love this product. It's helping me. I know I can help a lot of people, but God, it's not making any money. I have no margins. I can't get it out there. So either shut it down or make something happen. And this is where I sometimes struggle telling the story because I'm not kidding. Within a week is when Jesse and I connected and that story went viral.
Mm,
And so I believe the power of prayer, being on my hands and knees. And
mm,
yes, it was working for Jesse prior to that, but I didn't know
mhm,
that.
mhm,
And
mhm.
within days, we went viral. And it was just sharing that story on Facebook. And then, boom, I started just getting messages and messages. Can I get that? Can I order that? How can I order it? And so we started sending them to a Shopify store. We didn't have an email list. I
Mhm.
didn't have Instagram. We didn't have anything major. We had Facebook.
Right.
And this is 2017. So, yeah, I believe the power of prayer. I believe getting on my hands and knees.
Mm.
I'm not kidding, within days. I had one employee, she called me and said, after we posted the Jesse story, she called me and said, are you seeing Shopify numbers? And I hadn't been paying attention because we hadn't really sold that much. And she said, we've done $4,000 today alone. So in the month of January of 2017, we did more than we had done in 2015 or 2016 in
Wow.
1 month. And all of a sudden, I started paying attention. All of a sudden, we had to find a co-packer. All of a sudden, we had to build a team. And by the end of 2017, we had done 5.3 million in
So
sales.
let's back up to January, because here's a couple
Yes.
things I want to ask and how you process through these. There's super excitement. Like, everybody's excited. This girl's life changed. Her baby girl started to talk
Yeah.
for the first time ever. You have to feel like $1,000,000. So
Yes.
that's on one side. Your spirit's like, yes. And on
Yes.
the other side, you're going, holy crap.
Yeah.
How, what, if 4,000? I remember you told me when we had that conversation today, you're like, it was $4,000 yesterday. It's $4,000 a day. The next day was $4,000. The next day was like, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. How do you, as an entrepreneur, how did you balance the excitement and the passion and all of that with, oh man, now I've got to turn into a businesswoman?
So it was, there's a lot to that question to answer that question, but I'll tell you right away, I had to figure things out quickly. And
Mm,
I can remember gathering a group of people and we rented out different church kitchens just to fulfill those original orders. I had a cottage license, I had a co-packer, but they couldn't accommodate those. I couldn't accommodate that amount of sales, nor could the co-packer I had. So it was really just figuring it out quickly. I ended up deciding that I needed to go where all the cauliflower was being grown, which was Central California. I lived in Northern California at the time. So I went down there and I found some excellent farmers who helped me find a co-packer. And then we grew with that co-packer. And that co-packer was just such a godsend, really.
mm,
And then eventually, the venture capitalist that I sold to bought that co-packer's business, ended up buying
mm.
the manufacturing facility that Cauliflower Foods was produced in. So a full circle moment there. He helped
Yeah.
me in the end. They ended up helping him by buying his business.
And so you go from nothing to 4 grand a day to 5.3 million in 12 months.
And then 20 million the next year, over
Tell me
20
what
million
tell
the
me
next
what that
year. And
rocket ship ride was like.
we were number one on Amazon for 16 months straight. So we were beating Boboli, Mama Mary's, all different kinds of pizzas, not just cauliflower pizza crust.
Mhm.
It was a crazy journey of highs and lows.
Right.
And there were a lot of highs and a lot of lows. We had a lot of attention very quickly. Anything from being invited to the ESPYs, Emmys to provide pizza, Teen Choice Awards, to the cast of Hamilton, having us come down in New York and throwing pizza parties for them. I mean, just some crazy things. The Tennessee Titans went plant-based and they took on our pizza crust. I mean, we had some really exciting things. I remember just being down there with the Tennessee Titans. An influencer of ours, Erin Opria, she's like, come down, you're here, let's throw a pizza party. And I said, great, we'll throw a pizza party. She's like, it's just going to be a couple of my friends. And Martina McBride walks in and she's making pizza with our pizza crust and writing a cookbook at the same time that I had started writing a cookbook. So a lot of wonderful things like that happened. But also during that time, and I think this really does well now for people as well. We were getting a lot of letters. I was getting a lot of letters, and I read every single one of them. And so, like, we had Gavin that had a brain tumor, and his doctor put him on a low carb diet. We started sending that family crusts. We had a 3-year-old little girl that was a type 2 diabetic, right? Not juvenile diabetes, type 2. And that's an epidemic that's happening in our country right now. And when our kids are getting type 2, there's something really wrong with the food industry.
Yeah.
I don't want to go on a squirrel divert, whatever. I'm known to squirrel. I did a talk once and they named it the squirrel talk. But I do want to tell people our food industry, the FDA allows a 20% error of margin on your labels. So you could have 20% more sugar and not claim it, or 20% more bad of anything and not claim it. And I think that's a problem. And you don't see that in other countries. I mean, I can go to Italy and order a pizza and not have any inflammation.
And be fine.
But if I have it here, I blow up. So, I believe food is medicine, but it's got to be the right kind of food, and buyer beware, and really read those labels. But no, there could be a 20% error there. So when we started getting letters from different families, and we got a few of them, because like the little girl that had the type 2 diabetes, her family wanted us to educate our platform by sharing her story. So once we shared that story, or we shared Gavin's story, all of a sudden we started getting more people. Oh yeah, my 9-year-old has type 2 diabetes. Oh yeah, my 11-year-old. I mean, it's insane. It's sad. It's not insane. It's sad. It's very sad. So I became like, it was like my mission to get this product out to people for that, more than it was to be an 8-figure business. I never was.
That was my question.
It was never about the money for me. It was about paying it forward. And I went and I did Donald Miller's story brand. Again, back in Nashville. I felt like I needed to move to Nashville, just outside of Nashville, Franklin. And I learned that the customer is the hero. And if you cannot talk about your product all the time and how great your product is, but showcase your heroes, your customers, and sell your product that way, that's the way to do it. And I still believe that's the way to do it today. I really do.
Love that. So in the journey, Amy, most people are bottom line, bottom line, bottom line. In my book, I wrote a couple years ago, bestseller, I have a whole chapter on return on mission versus return on investment. And so your face lights up when you talk about the changed lives way more than your countenance changes when you talk about the revenue.
Yeah.
Talk about what that meant to you. And the second part of that question is, how did you relay that to your team to inspire and encourage them as well?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So let me answer the second part of the question first. First of all, my one employee I had that helped me when we started doing the 4,000 a day, she happened to be my esthetician. Now, backtrack, was diagnosed with Sjogren's. Sjogren's is dry eyes. I could no longer wear mascara. So I started getting these eyelashes on. And she was my esthetician applying eyelashes. For all you women out there that get eyelashes, it takes a while. So she is a daughter of a pastor. I'm a newbie Christian. I'm laying there with my eyes closed. She's putting eyelashes, and we're talking about the Bible. And I just felt immediate trust with her. She did every time I went in there, she taught me something new. And so it was this incredible experience. And when she ended up getting carpal tunnel, I said, I don't know, I have a health coaching business. I don't need an employee, but come work for me. We'll figure it out. And so she was my one employee. We ended up building a team of like-minded people. We had, for those that wanted to partake in it, we had a Bible study. We had a book club. I hired online trainers to work with my team as personal training. So I really invested a lot in my team. My team, I didn't have to motivate them. They saw the testimonials. They saw what was happening. I took them on the road with me when we went to the Cast of Hamilton or the ESPYs, Emmys, New York Choice Teen Choice, New York Food Show. I'm trying to say two things at once. They went with me. So the excitement was there. We were like a big Cali family. We actually called ourselves a Cali family.
I love it.
So that was they were very motivated. And again, I have to say, I'm going to admit this now, because in my second business, the one that we're launching, I'm doing things a lot different. We had a lot of money coming in, but I wasn't paying them top dollar like what
Mm,
people deserve in those positions, because I didn't have anything to compare it to. I didn't realize it until the venture capitalists came in and bought the company and basically fired my team and hired their own C-level. I didn't realize like the person in charge of marketing should be making what they were making.
mhm,
So my team really worked hard for very little.
mhm.
They were mission based as well. They had to be, or they would have come to me and asked me for a raise.
Yeah.
Nobody ever did. I mean, we would bonus and we would go on trips and stuff like that. But, um, and every time we went to a big city, we would go to church wherever, whoever wanted to
Mhm,
go, would
mhm.
go to that church in that city. So that was really fun as well. Got to meet Joel Osteen and a few other people.
Tell,
Just
tell
very,
me, tell me a little bit of, tell me a little bit. I'll back up just a little bit. I want to tell me about the Hamilton experience, because I know that's something that we shared that was absolutely phenomenal. I thought it was a crazy, crazy story.
so we start, and I want to tell my email story too, but we
Okay.
start with, we started having Instagram, and I had this, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm like, what's Instagram? I didn't even know what it was at the time. So we get hooked up with Instagram, and we get a private message on our Instagram, and the girl that was managing it says, this guy messaged us. He lives in New York. He's part of the cast of Hamilton. He wants to play the character Burr, and he had to lose 27 pounds to be able to play Burr. And he's been eating our pizza and he's lost 27 pounds. And he says, if we're ever in New York, let us know, let him know, and he'll get us tickets to Hamilton. Well, immediately I'm like, okay, send him a lot of crust. And we're all going to New York. 6 of us went to New York. They gave us backstage passes. It was very cool. I think I told you John Travolta and Kelly Preston
Mhm.
were there. And the cast was definitely talking to them, but immediately came over to us and spent a ton of time with us. And we ended up throwing pizza parties for the cast of Hamilton. And when they went on the road, they went to San Francisco and Portland. We did pizza parties for them in those cities, as
Mm.
well as New York, multiple times. Very cool people that play in that production. Just an amazing experience, and just one of those things that randomly happened for us.
The one thing I want entrepreneurs to hear, because we have entrepreneurs at every level that listen to this podcast, is that it's just not about the bottom line, but it really is about the team. It's about the experience. It's about, and I love what you said just a minute ago. I realized I didn't pay my team what they needed to be paid. And coming into this business, I'm like, okay, you learned, course corrected for your new business, but it was about really about the team and the community and the culture and the difference you're making in people's lives through your cauliflower crust pizza, and how, I mean, literally medical issues were being taken care of and healed because they were on this low carb, healthy diet.
Yeah.
At what point in the process did you, or ever did you, kind of step back, Amy, and go, wow, man, God, you're really good. And we've built something really, really cool.
Yeah. Many times. And I feel like welling up right now. Many times I am thinking
Mm.
the doors that opened and the people that came into my life were incredible. And the opportunities I had. Um, I can't, I, we don't have a long enough podcast to talk about everything, but I was a newbie believer. I think I told you that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grow up with religion. I had a little bit of a troubled childhood, and when I finally reconnected with my mom, and my mom married my stepdad. He was an atheist, so I became a Christian in 2015, and this business basically started in 2015. And I really believe, if you look at my Bible, the only one I ever had, you can see where I studied it all through the cauliflower days.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see where prayers were answered, or even beyond like my expectations. Just crazy things would happen that were so positive and so just I don't even know how to explain it. Just unbelievable. Um, it's like I randomly found Jeff Walker, The Power of Email. We didn't have an email list. I randomly found him, and I listened to this podcast, and I call my one employee. Now, this is after we've gone viral. My one employee, Jimmy, at the time, I'm starting to get more employees, but I'm calling her on a Friday night at 9:30, and I say, just listen to this email. This guy on The Power of Email. We have all these email addresses from orders that have come in from going viral. I said, can we send an email to these people? And she said, yeah, we can create an email list. And we both listened to his podcast again. We created an email to send out that night. The next day, I'm driving to the Bay Area for my son's lacrosse game, and I had on my phone, every time we sold a pizza, it would ding, and my phone was in my purse, and my husband's like, "What's that noise?" It kept, and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. We put the email out at like 11 o'clock at night the night before, and it's going cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. It's just going. I pull out my phone and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the email that Jimmy put out. We have sold $38,000 worth of pizzas in a matter
Right.
of whatever, 6 hours, and in the
Wow.
middle of the night, no less. That day we sold $87,000 worth of pizza on an email list, and I never stopped using email after that.
Wow.
Just things like that happened that just, everybody's doing email lists now, but
Did you send Jeff Walker a thank you card with a gift card to
I
Starbucks on that?
should. I should. I would love to
Yes,
meet
you
him
should. Yes, you
someday.
should.
Do you know him?
Yeah. No, I do not. I've never heard of him. I actually wrote it down. I'm going to investigate that as soon as we get
Okay.
off.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually
yeah.
just wrote that down.
Donald Miller promotes him a lot. So I
Hmm.
mean, he's in this space, but everybody's
Yeah.
using email, and I didn't even realize
That's
how
funny.
powerful email could be.
Isn't that
But
funny?
the crazy thing is, in 2018, I started losing sight of what was really important. I started getting asked to be on a lot of different shows, The
Mhm.
Doctors, Dr. Oz, The View.
Mhm.
Um, I was in a lot of different articles, magazines. I started having venture capitalists really interested in the company, and a lot of attention. And I stopped putting in that gratitude that I had,
Mm.
what was given to me. In November of 2018, I live in Northern California. At this point, we're doing 8 figures. We have a little pizza bar, restaurant. I'm writing a cookbook for a publishing company in New York. Our growth is insane. We're launching pasta, a 2 ingredient pasta now that we brought over from Italy, going back and forth to Italy. Just major things are happening. And I'm losing that daily in
Mm.
my Bible, gratitude. And so, November of 2018, a fire starts in Northern California. I'm actually in Southern California, but the little town of Paradise, California, called the Camp Fire, burns down in minutes. And that is where my mom, my stepdad, and my aunt live. And so I'm in LA, and I'm actually getting ready to go to a Mosaic conference, of all things. I fly home, and everybody's in my house because the town's been evacuated and the town has burned to the ground, and we don't know if their homes are standing
Mhm.
or not.
Mhm.
So long story short, both their homes don't burn down, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time. The curse is you can't live in that town anymore. There's no water, no electricity. My aunt's home was the only one standing out of probably 50 homes. My parents, many of the homes in their neighborhood made it. Theirs was one of them. But again, you couldn't live in it, and they didn't get the insurance. So I had an offer from venture capitalists, and I decided, okay, this is, with a lot of prayer, it's time for me to sell off part of my company because I need to help my family. I need to
Mm.
move everybody out of this area. There were no homes that you could buy. So I ended up selling a huge chunk of the company off. It was like my gut knew I shouldn't do it. I knew
Mm,
and I wasn't listening to my gut, and I should have went into deep prayer. I say
mm,
I prayed, but I should have went into deep prayer and been patient and listened,
mm,
because I think I would have heard a different message.
mm,
What I did was I jumped at the first offer. I jumped at money. I had two
mm,
offers on the table. Um, I had jumped at the money so that I could help move everybody out of California to Florida. And my family doesn't have any money.
mhm,
My family didn't have any money, so I wanted to be able to help them. And that's what I did. And I knew in my gut I was probably making the wrong decision. And the venture capitalists, like so many venture capitalists do, they restructure the company. You think it's going to be the same. They're going to take
right.
what you built and they're going to run with it and make it even better. But they ended up firing my team. And again, I didn't go into a lot of detail about my team besides the fact that my esthetician was my first hire, but
Mhm,
a lot of them were friends of mine from 20 years because I couldn't afford to hire anybody else. I didn't know
mhm,
anybody
mhm,
else, and we were growing so fast. I'm like, come help me, please. I need your help. And they end up being my employees. So everybody got fired. They changed the recipe. They changed a lot of the marketing. They dropped a bunch of products. They ended up putting me on sabbatical because they didn't like that I didn't like what they were doing.
mm,
And this is, I've talked to a lot of founders.
mhm,
This is normal. This
mhm,
is normal behavior from venture capitalists coming in. And I had taken money off the table. So I did give up some of my ownership, quite a bit of my ownership, actually. So I didn't have the same rights that I did as a full
right.
owner. I couldn't make major decisions. So that was really hard. And the hardest part about that is my team, it happened so fast and they were kind of just left in the wind. And remember, I didn't pay them a lot and they
Mhm,
gave up a lot and they worked so hard to build this company up. They really took it like it was their own, treated it like it was their own. And here they were fired and like just left behind.
mhm,
So they stopped speaking to me.
mm,
So I moved to Florida, get everybody settled. Very blessed that I was able to sell all three of those homes, my
mhm,
home included. And COVID hits. I know nobody in Florida except for our family. My friends no longer speak to me.
mm,
And I have lost my identity. I'm no longer the CEO of this massively growing company. And like, I just went into the deepest depression I've ever
mm,
been in. I thought I couldn't get any lower than when I was diagnosed with lupus because I couldn't take care of my youngest child then because I was so sick. I was the lowest I've ever been in
mm,
2020. And this is why I know money does not buy happiness. Money does not buy peace. Money helps. And people that have a ton of money always talk about that. But I was at my lowest point. I have the most beautiful home on the water, our dream home on the water. My family all has homes. They're all safe. We all have our health now. But I am so low because I've completely put all of my self-worth in this company. It no longer was about my daily with God and gratitude for what
mhm,
God has done for me. It was, what interview am I going to be on next? What show am I going to be on next? How many sales are we having today? Who wants to buy my company? That kind of attitude, and not the gratitude that I needed to be. So I lost myself. I literally didn't know who I
You
was.
know, I think sometimes, not I think, I know sometimes God allows us to go through things. He doesn't cause, he allows.
Allow.
One of my five affirmations is I am whole. I choose to use past pain to help others find healing. So talk to me about a couple of the things that you learned in that low point of your life and how you've taken those lessons and transferable principles into this new company that you're starting now.
Yeah. So not only was I at my lowest, my mom got diagnosed with cancer during that time also. And I had a lot of time on my hands. So I took her to all her appointments. And my right hand person, Jimmy, also was diagnosed with cancer. Literally, they were diagnosed both with breast cancer within like a week. So Jimmy chose to go holistic. So I started doing a lot of research, um, just spending hours researching holistic ways. And then my mom chose to go Western medicine. So I took her to all her appointments. So I learned a lot about cancer. Now, during that time, I discovered this fruit called soursop, which a lot of people were using for cancer. I can never promote it for cancer, never will I. That would just, I would get shut down in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
But in the midst of
Which
learning,
should tell you something about our medical system.
well, in the midst of learning
Yeah.
about this
Yeah.
super fruit that's grown in the Caribbean, and people have used it for a very long time for other illnesses. It's also anti-inflammatory, it's cell rejuvenation, it builds your immune system. So of course, we were all trying to build our immune system during COVID. I was really freaked out because I had autoimmune issues, and Plaquenil
Mhm.
was the drug I was so proud that I was able to get off of, that everybody was talking about during COVID wanting. Anyways, basically, I realized this fruit could do a lot for myself as well. And it has antidepressant abilities in it as well. So I started getting the fruit. It's very expensive, very hard to get.
Mhm.
And the next idea came to my mind during that very low point. And I really believe that, and I couldn't see it then, but when we're at our lowest, it's just God's redirection. He has a different
Mhm.
plan for you. I know cauliflower was my education into business. It was my education in learning what we're lacking in the food industry. I can say food is medicine, but really, we are lacking a lot in the food industry. We need supplements to
Mhm.
bridge the gap
Mhm.
between our food industry and Western medicine.
Mhm.
So I'm married to a doctor. I believe in Western medicine, but I also know what little time they have and who educates them, which is big pharma. So they write a pill or they do a treatment. That's what they know. They
Mhm.
don't understand what can soursop do? What is cell rejuvenation? What is building your immunity natural? So I started playing with these products and other products as well. And I realized that this is definitely a superfood that can help a lot of people. And so that's how that business, I kind of threw myself into it. It pulled me out of depression. There's another side of that too that I love to talk about that I never talked about. Here we go with a squirrel moment.
Come on, girl.
Um, I experienced some trauma at the age of 12. And this is when I was in the foster system and what have you. I experienced some trauma. Without going into that, I never dealt with that trauma. I buried it, buried it,
Mhm.
buried it.
It's what we do.
So come in my 40s, that manifested into what I
Mhm.
believe is why my body started attacking me
Mhm.
and why I got lupus and Sjogren's. So during this low point, my family said, you need to go get some counseling for depression, for you're struggling. We don't know how to help you. So, along with experimenting with superfoods like soursop, I also got counseling. And during the counseling, it was discovered that I needed to do EMDR therapy and really dive into treatment on that trauma that I experienced. So, going through 16 months of trauma therapy unleashed so much. And I believe if you have any viewers that have experienced any kind of trauma, and it doesn't have to be like what I experienced, I mean, there's all different levels of trauma. If you don't address it, it's going to manifest it in some kind of illness. It's going to attack your body in some way. So, addressing that finally, I thought, wow, thank you, God. Thank you for the intervention. Thank you for the family that cared enough. Thank you for Live Well, that happens to be here in Florida, that does EMDR and was able to pull that out of me and really, uh, it just was so healing. And it was confirmation that I'm ready to start something new. Like that whole platform of cauliflower was just to get me to where I am right now. So God's redirecting me in different ways. He's helping me in different ways. And I believe that this next business and this next
Yeah.
journey of helping people, and that's what I care about, is helping people more than anything else. Of course, I want to make sure that everybody gets paid well. But you know what's really funny about this? If you had told me 3 years ago this would happen, I would never believe you. 5 of my team members that didn't speak to me are now with me on Soursop Nutrition. They've come back. 2 of them are investors in the company. So it's just, everybody needed to heal. They went through their own pain. They got fired. They saw me move across the country. They saw me buy a big house, and they were left in the wind. And now we're coming together and building this new business that's going to help even more people. So
now I'm going to ask you a question we have not talked about. I knew part of that story, but how important was it for you to own some of the mistakes that you had made in the past with them to start that reconciliation process?
100%. 100%. I had to humble myself and look back on where I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of mistakes. I mean, there were obvious mistakes of like packaging errors and things like that cost the company money.
Or labels you can't read.
Labels you can't read, which I'm dealing with right now. No, but there was a lot of mistakes like that I made that I learned from. But the mistakes on how I reacted, to the fires and took the first big amount that I could get, that reaction, how I let communication, just lack of communication and hurt, just divide us as a team and divide my friendships. I didn't try to reconciliate what happened, like really sit down and figure out what happened. I just wallowed in my pain. And I didn't think about what they were going through until later. I was just so self-absorbed. And it's really sad for me to look back on that and think, wow, how did I get like that? That's not who I am. That's not the kind of person I am.
Well, had you not went through that, Amy, that trauma in the past would not have surfaced.
Exactly.
And you would not have been able to walk through EMDR. And that's really, we talked at the beginning of the podcast, our hour and 40-minute, when we started talking about trauma, we were like, oh, me too. Oh, me too. And we spent a lot of time talking about the therapy that both of us have been through for the past 1.5 to 2 years.
Yeah. Going through the trauma therapy has made me a better mother, a better mom, a better wife. I didn't realize that I was a little bit of a rager. I would come home from, let's say, being gone for a week with cauliflower. I'd come home, and if things weren't exactly how I thought they should be, I would start raging, especially my oldest son probably took the biggest brunt of that. And through this counseling, I realized, wow, I am so far off of where I need to be. And so I had to go through a lot of healing. I mean, I spent 16 months healing before I could get to where I am today, which is about launching a new product, a new company. We have multiple products. My kids are in such a great space, and I have such a wonderful relationship with them. And things are so much better. I mean, are they perfect? No. It's always a work in progress. But it's funny, I had a realtor, and the realtor actually helped my family find a home. She didn't help us with ours. I didn't know her then. I met her at church. I've gone through a couple churches since we lived here in Florida. And I called her one day and I was crying. And I was like, I forget what I was even crying about, something that wasn't going right. This is during that time where I was in a low. And she said, Amy, have you gotten into the word? You just need to get the word. Like, where's your Bible? And I realized it was packed in a box somewhere. I hadn't even pulled it out of the box.
Wow.
And as soon as I got into that, that's when I got back into the word again, daily, gratitude journal daily, starting to be grateful for what I have and not wallowing in self-pity, is when the therapy opportunity came about. Everything started shifting for me. So I'm grateful for Stephanie, the realtor, for making me realize that Bible was still packed somewhere in a box and I hadn't pulled it out, and it had been over a year.
Wow.
I'd been in the YouVersion online app, but I hadn't been actually physically in my Bible reading.
I shared this morning in my podcast, I drop a Coaching with Ken episode every Monday, and today's that drop, I spoke in Vegas last week with Tucker Carlson and RFK Jr. and Brad Lee and just some amazing human beings. Oh, I had a blast. I had a blast. I had a really cool moment with RFK, with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And we was a small meet and greet, 10, 12 people. And, he spoke the same day I did. And we got done and we were just talking. And I said, hey, Mr. Kennedy, I said, thank you. I said, thank you for your family's sacrifice. I said, your family's probably paid a price that most families can't even understand. I said, I can't even imagine what it was like to grow up without your uncle and then without your father. And he just, tears welled up in his eyes. And we spent about 3 or 4 minutes just having a conversation. He put his hand on my shoulder. I've got a picture of the moment. And he just put his hand on my shoulder and he looked at me and he goes, Ken, thank you. That means a lot. And I said, I can't even imagine what it's like to have been in your family. But at the conference, the question I got asked more than anything else was, Ken, how do you continue to show up for so many people? And the answer is you can't show up for others until you first show up for yourself. And you have to do that consistently. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Amy showed up for Amy, because before, when you didn't show up for yourself for a period of time, it has a negative effect on all the people around you. So last question. When Amy sits down in the morning to get ready and she sees herself in the mirror now, what story do you tell yourself?
Oh, I'm like, what are we doing today? I mean, the first thing I do is get into the word before I do anything else. It's so hard though, because I want to check email and I want to check social and what have you. But it's the first thing I do is I get up and I sit down and I just have that quiet time. And that's what I did when I was building Cauliflower. When I became a newbie Christian, that was something I did because I wanted to do it. And I'm back to, I want to do that. And then when I look at myself in the mirror and I'm brushing my teeth and stuff, I'm like, okay, what are we conquering today? I mean, the old me used to say, when I was wallowing in self pity, I used to look at myself and say, oh, you're too old to do anything else. Or you've gained weight again. You let yourself go again. You're letting the depression get to you. And I would put on a smiley face for my family and they would go off to school. And this is before they were homeschooled with COVID. They'd go off to school and work and I'd put on a pretty smile and whatever, kiss goodbye. And then they'd walk out the door and I would sob all day. I'd be just in tears. And then they would come home and I would put on that makeup and it was fake. It was all fake. I was pretending I was something that I wasn't. And so now I just get up and it's like, sometimes after I've been in the word, I'll just go live in my jammies without any makeup or brushing my
Come
hair.
on, girl.
Like,
I
here
love
I
it.
am in the raw.
I
I
love
mean,
it.
I'm so ready for this
I
next
love it.
adventure. I'm so excited because I'm meeting people like you, honestly. And I'm not just saying this because I'm on your podcast. I'm meeting people like you. I'm meeting some amazing people lately. And I know that has to just be the energy I'm putting out there, the opportunities that are being presented to me by being, faithful and living in gratitude. It's huge. It comes back to you. And so I remember what that feels like from 2017, 2018, before I lost track of it. And it feels so good. And I just can't wait to see what the next few years bring, because I want to be with like-minded people, surround
Yeah,
myself with
it's
like-minded
good.
people.
God's so good. Amy Lacey, ladies and
So good.
gentlemen, founder of the first cauliflower pizza, helped build a $1 billion industry and category, best-selling author. Now, in a new business, founder of Soursop Nutrition. Go follow her. Hey, Amy Lacey. Hey, Amy Lacey on Instagram. Go check her out. Follow her. She's got a couple of followers, about 300,000. She is a rock star, and man, I'm super glad God got us connected. I am
So glad, because it
yeah.
was a random way we connected. And one thing I want to say is I manage my social media, which is why it looks like a hot mess. But if you private message me, I will message you back. It is me, and I
Yeah.
love to meet new friends. So, yeah, I'm not exactly sure how we found each other, but it keeps happening to me. Good people like you.
Yeah.
I love talking to you today, obviously, but definitely just getting to know you. The last few times we've spoken, we have a lot to talk about. And
Yeah.
it's just cool what you're doing, all the things you're doing, and the people that you're helping. And I'm amazed at people like
Yeah.
you. I'm grateful
It's
and amazed that you're in my life. And I
yeah.
hope to expand that.
The feeling is mutual, my friend. The feeling is mutual. And I'm excited to see what God does in the future.
Yeah, you're doing such cool things. You're doing
Thank
great
you.
things. You
Yeah.
have that thing coming up in January. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
It's good. It is good. Guys, thank you for joining us on another episode of As the Leader Grows. As always, if this has added value, I'm going to ask you to do a couple things. Number one, if you'll click that subscribe button. Number two, if you'll leave us a 5-star review, head over to Hey Amy Lacey. Follow Amy on Instagram. Also, if you screenshot this podcast when you listen, tag Amy, tag myself, we'll share it. And then last but not least, head over to our new Facebook group. We just started a public group. It's GSD community. Ton of value, ton of stuff that we drop on there. I go live on there all the time. I bring friends on like the amazing Amy Lacey with me as well, just to add value to you and in your life. And as always, thank you for joining us on As the Leader Grows. We'll see you next week.